This episode is sponsored by Audible. Are you craving your next action-packed adventure? Why not dive into an exciting new audiobook? With Audible, they deliver thrills of all kinds, from gripping suspense to spine-tingling horror. And with over 1 million audiobooks, podcasts, and originals all in one easy app, you're bound to find something you love that will keep you on the edge of your seat. So whether you want to revisit an old story or find a brand new one, Audible has you covered. New members can try Audible now for 30 days when you visit audible.com/command or text command to 500-500.
Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks.
I'm Cloud Strife, Jimmy Wong.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not.
You could be if you're playing this deck.
Game.
Today, it's an RPG, I guess.
Yeah. Role-playing.
Today, our upgrades of the 4 Final Fantasy Precons that just got spoiled.
Wow.
This week. We're starting today with, of course, the Final Fantasy VII Naya Cloud deck. It's green, it's red, it's white, it's called Limit Break, and it's all about equipment. We're going to go through what comes in this pre-constructed box to see if it's for you, and we're going to give you 10 cards to add to it and 10 cards to take out to get it into peak fighting shape for your next game night.
Slashing shape. But before we get into it, go to cardkingdom.com/command to pick up your Magic card, single sealed product, all that and more. By supporting Card Kingdom, you also support our show. Not only that, when you order from Card Kingdom, you get all your cards in a convenient single package to your doorstep. So professional, so nice, so clean. And of course, you need those cards to play Magic because that's what Magic's all about. So cardkingdom.com/command, get all the product that you're looking for. There's a bunch of cards from Final Fantasy, both the main set and the Commander set.
When this comes out, you'll be pre-ordering still, but we wanted to make sure you got this upgrade as soon as possible because we know that you're out there brewing. So pick up some cards before you even get this deck into your hands.
Yeah.
And while you're doing that, you might as well go over to ultrapro.com/command and pick up all of the deck boxes, playmats, binders, sleeves, playmats,
wall scrolls, playmats. Don't say I have too many playmats, but maybe you don't.
I don't know. That's my house. I did meet somebody who had one playmat, and I was like, what?
It's like,
you've been playing for years.
You know the people that are like, I'm going to take a penny and cover my entire floor with pennies and like lacquer it over. It's like that. I can do that with playmats.
For sure. I use them to pack. I use packing material because I love them so much. I just keep buying them.
Yeah.
And Ultra Pro has the highest quality playmats, of course. If you are reorganizing your collection like me, go check out the Mana 8 storage line. They've got long boxes that store flat that are one for each color. So you can have all your red cards in one box, all your white cards in another box.
Nice.
Very sharp, very clean. You always know where your cards are. And you can get them off of that table that we know that they're sitting on.
No, if you're sitting on the playmat, what are you talking about? On a table?
That's true.
Disgusting.
A stack of playmats, then a bunch of Magic cards. ultrapro.com/command to support the show.
Last one is supposed directly, patreon.com/command-zone. We have nothing Final Fantasy related on our Patreon except for the content that we create about it. But if you go there, you can also get into our Discord. We actually create channels for all of the precons on our Discord when they come out, so you can talk with other people in our community about what you would add to the deck, what cards you're excited about, what new cards you want to put into other decks and all that. Patreon.com/command-zone. We shout out one lucky patron every single week episode. And so this episode is dedicated to Robert McGill.
Robert, you rock. You Robok.
Robok. I don't know what that means. All right, Limit Break Precon upgrade. We're going to talk all about the stats of the Precon as well as the reprints, the reprint value, and all that good stuff. And I guess we should kick things off, Rachel, with the commanders.
Yeah, let's just get to know this deck. And of course, it's Final Fantasy VII deck. So we're starting with the face commander, Cloud, ex-soldier.
And his nice-looking triceps.
Well, I think everybody's looking at his sword. It is way too big. That is all I know about Final Fantasy, is that big Cloud's sword, too big.
Yeah.
It's not, like, a person shouldn't use it.
Yeah.
2 red, green, white for a 4/4 with haste. He's a human soldier mercenary. When Cloud enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to it. Whenever Cloud attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. Then, if Cloud has power 7
Ooh, Final Fantasy 7.
Or greater, create 2 treasure tokens.
Yay, so that's pretty sweet.
We're drawing some cards, we're making some treasure tokens, we're auto-equipping some big, scary equipments on Cloud. He's a little bit expensive, but I would anticipate this deck starts as like a little bit of ramp, a huge, impactful equipment, and then you slam your commander so you can get a big tech the turn it comes down.
But it does also reward you for putting a lot of creatures out with a lot of equipment. So there are some cards in the deck that obviously work towards that. And notably, +3 power on Cloud is a bit more unlikely normally because the swords are all +2/+2. So getting Cloud up to 7 is what's going to get you those treasures. But regardless, even when Cloud comes down, auto equips and attacks with like a Colossus Hammer or something, you're going to draw a card. So at minimum, you're going to get 1 card out of this if you've done things correctly.
Yeah, but a hero is only strong if he has his friends around.
Yeah, including one that doesn't use weapons, they use their fists. The other commander is Tifa, Martial Artist, and you will hear a lot about this card, I guarantee it, in the coming years, because it's kind of crazy. 1 in Naya, 1 red, green, white for a 4/4 legendary creature human monk with melee. So whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attacked this combat. 3 opponents in commander means that you can get up to +3/+3. And it's a 4/4, so it gets to that 7 marker. Pretty cool. And it says, whenever 1 or more creatures you control with power 7 or greater deal combat damage to a player, untap all creatures you control. If it's the first combat phase of your turn, there is an additional combat phase after this phase.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about Tifa for a second, because there's been a lot of confusion about how this card works.
Yeah, please. Take it away.
We're going to set melee aside, because melee is the thing. It'll trigger every combat is all you really need to know. So Tifa will get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger with every combat that you have.
7/7, 10/10.
As long as you're attacking all 3 of your opponents. So the way that she works is if you hit a player with a creature with power 7 or greater, you get an untapped trigger right away. If it's your first combat, you also get
Another combat.
Additional combat.
Yeah.
So say you hit like 2 of your opponents with creatures with power 7 or greater. You're going to get 2
untapped triggers.
And you're going to get 2 additional combat triggers on that first attack. And then you're going to go to the combat, and you will hit, and there'll be another untapped trigger in your second combat.
Yeah.
So no matter how many combats you string together, as long as you're hitting with a creature with power 7 or greater, you will get an untapped trigger to go to the next combat.
Yeah, it's important to note that it's kind of like 2 parts of this trigger. The first one is just like, if you are dealing damage with power 7 or greater creatures to someone, you're going to untap everything. And then it says, okay, if it's the first combat, then you get another one. But every time that damage happens, is basically you're going to get that untapped trigger.
Yeah. So on her own, Tifa can give you up to an additional 6 combat steps if you hit 3 players with 3 double striking 7/7s. But if you're hitting 3 players with 3 double striking 7/7s, you're probably winning the game anyway, even without 6 extra combats.
Yeah, Tifa is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is wild. It works very well with Cloud, obviously, because it gives you a 7 power creature.
Yeah.
Well,
for Tifa's thing.
For Tifa's thing, it gives you a 7 power creature, and Cloud wants to be a 7 power creature to trigger Tifa more.
Yeah.
And Cloud cares about her being equipped and attacking, and you're going to be dealing more combat damage more and more times, drawing more cards with Cloud.
Yeah, punching.
Yeah.
So cool.
Those are the 2 optional face commanders for these decks. You can see a little bit of themes. Cloud cares about equipment. Tifa cares about power 7 or greater and extra combats and attacking. We're going to get into the deck to decide which one suits the deck better as the face commander. But I think it would be a crime to take Cloud out of the command zone, I will be honest.
In an RPG, you are allowed to reform your party a bunch, but there's a ton of equipment in this deck. Tifa's not caring about equipment. Cloud does. This is an equipment deck. Cloud's going to be in the front.
Well, let's get into it. First things first, we're going to talk about the reprint value of this deck. For the record, this deck's MSRP is set at $70.
Yeah.
So that is high for any Precon. But on top of that, that's not what you can buy this deck for.
No, this is the most anticipated product maybe ever in Magic the Gathering. And right now the pre-order prices are very high, almost double
Yeah.
the MSRP. It's like $110 to $120, $140 we've seen online.
There's a huge range right now. The pre-order prices are all over the place. But unfortunately, the only number we actually have that is solid is the MSRP. So that's the number we're going to use for our math today. And we're hoping that those really high pre-order prices will come down as sort of the hype dwindles.
Yeah.
Where people get more used to having it on shelves.
If you were around for Lord of the Rings, and notably, I would say from a business perspective, Wizards wants this to be an incoming funnel for more players. So it makes total sense that they're going to print a lot of these precons. So I don't think that the precon prices will stay at this price level, but I don't actually know because I'm not the person pressing, the printer button or whatever.
The printer button.
How many more of these things can we get into the public?
Print. We don't know what exactly will happen, but we are hoping that it will return closer to its MSRP price, which is also quite high for a precon.
Yeah.
But all things considered, we're going to get into the total reprint value for this deck is
176.25. So $176.25. The average reprint value in 2024 for precons was $137. So this is actually up there.
This is quite high, which makes sense for a product that is almost twice as expensive as normal. As normal precons. So 176 is a good number. And you have to remember that this only takes into account the value of the reprints, which is only 64 of the 100 cards. And those prices are taken at time of recording. They will, of course, go down. It does not include any of the value of the 25 new cards, the 2 main set cards, or the basic lands.
Yeah.
So there is additional value on top of the 176.
Yeah, and we don't know what those cards are going to be priced at yet, but they are favorite characters from Final Fantasy VII. They're very notable, and so they may actually have a lot of value attached to them as well, like Tifa, for instance.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
Not to mention, all of the new reprints have brand new Final Fantasy art. So this is going to be sort of... If you want the Final Fantasy printing, this is how you get it.
Yeah.
Or you order the singles online later. Okay, so that number, the 176, is not super helpful because the MSRP is so different from other ones. So we've been taking a bang for your buck value, where you take the total reprint value and divide it by what you spent for it. Like we said, we're going to use the number 70, but you can use whatever price that you find it for and calculate your own bang for your buck value so you can decide if it's
Final
worth it
Fantasy
for you.
70.
So, yeah. So the bang for your buck value, if you buy this deck at $70, is $2.52 worth of reprints for your $1 cash.
Pretty good.
So that's pretty good. The average bang for your buck of 2024 was $2.75. So it's a little bit low.
But again,
but we
it's
do
a
have
high
to keep in
MSRP.
mind that there's only... there's a highest MSRP, and there's only 64 reprints in this deck, which is lower than most precons that we calculate this for. I did want to do a second bang for your buck value. If you do buy this at like $120, you're only getting $1.47 worth of reprints for your $1 cash. So $120 is like sort of the median what we're finding the Final Fantasy decks at. That's obviously not worth it if you're just buying these decks for the precons. You're not even doubling your value there.
You're paying nostalgia money, is what or I love Final Fantasy money.
Yes. If you just want this deck for the reprints, it's not the right product for you.
Yeah.
That being said, let's go into the notable reprints.
There are a lot.
There are a lot. These are the ones that are worth $5 or more.
Yeah, this first one's really interesting because it also has Final Fantasy VII art from a very iconic Final Fantasy VII scene. So I have no idea where this is going to end up at. But right now, Clever Concealment is at the notable reprints top list. So again, we're doing cards $5 or more. 12 of them in the deck.
It's a lot.
Clever Concealment is number 1. It's $25 at the time of this announcement.
Crazy?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very good card. It's got Convoke. And now it is going to have a Final Fantasy VII printing of what some people consider like their favorite scene from the game.
Yeah.
So I don't know if how this is actually going to pan out, but pretty sweet. It's up there.
Yeah. Second to Teferi's Protection is my favorite board protection spell.
Yeah, it's great.
The next one's a little less exciting. It's sitting at $22 right now, but it's a Firelit Thicket. It's
Thickest in the thicket.
Thickest in the Firelit Thicket. This is the Gruul Filter land, sitting at $22.
Yeah, it just hasn't seen a lot of reprints. Sword of the Animist, also with special Final Fantasy VII art, is at $13, and now it's Aerith. Aerith of the Animist. Very nice.
The next reprint is sitting at $12 right now. It is Dark Steel Plate. This is the one that gives the equipped creature indestructible.
Just hasn't had that many printings.
Not that many printings. It is also a very popular equipment card. This does go in a lot of equipment decks.
Yeah. There's a Lord of the Rings version that I think is just straight up better, but of course.
You know.
Next up is another very popular equipment card. It's Conqueror's Flail at $9. Basically says, hey, during your turn, you can't cast no spells, opponent.
Yeah, it protects your turn and gives Cloud the all-important +3/+3. Conqueror's Flail, very good in the deck. Yeah. And then Hellkite Tyrant is sitting at $8.50. This is the one that yoinks all the artifacts and wins the game if you have 20. Not an easy, not
that's
an
high.
Yeah.
That's the high.
Not an easy thing to do in this deck. There's not that many artifacts, but if you steal a lot, and I guess if you're making a lot of treasures off of Cloud.
Boy, don't be the player that plays Hellkite Tyrant. Everyone will kill you. Skull Clamp, of course, classic, constant. Next up at $8. This is Rachel's favorite equipment ever.
It is Lightning Greaves, Jimmy's favorite equipment ever. Actually, no, you took the other one. Yeah. Josh's. $7.50. Whose shoes are these? Are those Cloud's shoes?
Gotta step it up, says Tifa Lockhart.
It's Tifa's shoes?
It must be, unless Cloud wears a skirt.
Well,
the art, it looks
Tifa's shoes. The Lightning Greaves.
Next up, we got the Professional Face Breaker. Just a great card. You're always going to want it. You're always going to play it.
Sitting at $6.50. Armory Automaton is also at $6. This one kind of surprised me. This is the one that when it enters, you auto-equip all of the equipment to it, or when it attacks.
Next up is Bronze Guardian, which is a fun one. It's like that big double strikey wardy golem that gives your other artifacts ward. And that was also sitting around $6.
And finally, the big ol' hammer itself, Colossus Hammer, is sitting at $5. So 12 reprints over $5. That is a lot of value for this equipment deck. But if you're spending $120 on the box, that's a lot of money to recoup. So
yeah, it makes a lot of sense though because it's equipment. They can go into any deck, right? They're colorless, so you're going to see more prices up just because it's more universal where the cards can fit into.
Financially, I think if you're not buying this deck because you're a fan of Final Fantasy, it really isn't worth the price. There is a huge uptax on all of the art, which is cool if you're a Final Fantasy fan. But if you're not, Magic cards don't quite justify the price tag.
Yeah, and especially if you want to just get a Skull Clamp, you have a lot of options. You have a ton of options for Lightning Greaves, unless you specifically want the Final Fantasy VII version of them. I would say, buy singles.
Okay.
All right.
So that is a look at the deck financially. We are going to look at the deck mechanically because it's almost time for us to do that upgrade, which means it's time to break down the
stats. Deck stats.
That was a big one. First things first, we want to talk about the nuts and bolts, the things that go in every Precon, and see how healthy this deck is.
Yeah, so these are really well built. I think all the Precons have great distribution from what I've seen. Shout out to the teams that designed it. So as far as stats go, we've got 13 cards that ramp ya. This is Naya, so of course we got a lot of land ramp and artifact ramp in this deck. There are 13 sources of card advantage, Cloud being one of them. 7 sources of targeted disruption, which is a little bit low. And there's 8 sources of mass disruption, which is a little high. 37 lands with 9 basics and 10.5 tapped lands. What's that 0.5 come from, Rachel?
So the way that we calculate tapped lands is that if it could come in tapped, if you don't meet a stipulation, it counts as half a tapped land. Yeah. There are 6 lands that always come in tapped. So this is actually a pretty good mana base in terms of tapped lands.
Yeah, and being a 3-color deck too.
It being 3 colors, it has a lot of lands that could come in untapped and isn't going to leave you super slow, which makes sense in a deck that wants to be on the front foot, wants to be attacking. So I appreciate that. Only 9 basics, too.
No, only 9 basics. Not so basic after all.
All right. Up next, we're going to look at the deck from a more specific view. We know it's an equipment deck, but what kind of numbers does it have to balance out the equipment plan? We know equipment decks are sort of famously difficult to balance in terms of the ratio between creatures to equipment.
Truly.
So let's get started. Up first, there are 25 creatures in the deck, which makes sense for this kind of deck. I think 25 is perfectly reasonable for an equipment deck. There are 16 equipments. That's a little bit lower than I would expect. I think I would want this number a little bit closer to 18, but if the whole deck isn't focused around equipment, then and it's just your commander, you only really want one in play, then I can see that number feeling closer to right. I think I would want to add one or two.
Yeah, it's a little split there because there are 15 cards that buff the power of cards.
So this is like some of these are equipment, some of them are counters, some of them are just general like type anthem type effects.
Yeah.
But these are cards that push Cloud and Tifa and the rest of the team closer to that 7 power number.
Yeah.
So 15 sounds about right. 8 pieces of protection. This is stuff like your clever concealment to protect your board. You are going to want to overcommit because you want to put big scary things on the board. So having ways to make sure that they don't get removed goes a long way. Some of that is just like equipment that grants hexproof. Some of it is instant speed stuff.
Yeah. And then the average mana value of the deck is just over 3 at 3.08.
That's pretty good. I think that's completely reasonable for a precon of this level.
Yeah. Equipment too as well. Kind of like anytime you have an equipment deck, it kind of takes it almost into a different category of deck because now you have to contend with all these new cards that are like, well, to be balanced, we had to make it cost 3 mana or whatever. So it's going to skew the numbers a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with the stats of this, but let's talk about our goals with the upgrade, because, no precon is perfect, especially ones like this that are really focused on flavor and making sure that everybody's represented and feels like a good representation of their character.
Yeah. So when I played this deck in the Game Nights episode.
You did!
I've chosen to keep Cloud as the commander because I think with 16 equipment already in the deck, it's very much clearly focused on being an equipment deck, as some of the legendary characters we'll talk about also do the same thing. I wanted to get rid of some of the clunkier equipment that isn't as great as some of the other options and make the deck a little bit more consistent in terms of like card advantage.
It's tough. It's a lot of, it's all your eggs in one basket, and your basket would be a 5-mana commander.
Yeah.
So, and when it comes down, it is super scary. So making sure that you have that protection, making sure that you have the card advantage if you don't get blown out by a Vandal Blast, which would be backbreaking for a deck like this.
This deck folds to a Vandal Blast.
So just making sure that you have a little bit more of a backup plan, a little bit more stability to it. But before we add any cards, we do want to highlight which cards are the best ones in the deck because they're often an indication of what more cards we need to add, what direction are we going in with this upgrade.
Yeah, so I think the best card in the deck by a long shot is Pure Steel Paladin.
I mean, this card's just the best.
It's the best. It's white for a 2/2. Whenever an equipment you control enters, you may draw a card, so it's got that SRAM ability. And then Metalcraft, most important. Equipment you control have equipped 0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts.
Free equips and the draws on ETB on a 2-mana creature that can wear equipment.
Yeah.
It's hard to ask for anything more.
Yeah, in general, I think equipment decks that I built, like for instance, I have a Nahiri Fortune Fury deck that I built recently that's all about equipment. And you really find yourself just caught up in the fact that you have a bunch of equipment and having to pay extra equip costs on top, whereas your opponents are just doing stuff. Is where you really get caught up. So Pure Steel Paladin, for me, like by a long shot, is the kind of card that you just absolutely want to see in your opening hand to give you a shot at actually winning the game. I also think Tifa is one of the best cards in the deck, just having the ability to close out a game. Because with a deck like this, I find that you play Cloud or your big scary threat, you do the attack, and then everyone goes, oh, that's bad. And then you go, pass turn. And then you give 3 turns of players to basically chip you down, knock you out, take your life total down. So Tifa gives the ability to sort of like push through and get through with the extra combats. I think that's really important in a deck like this too.
Yeah, there's also a fair amount of attack triggers on equipment. We already saw sort of the animist type stuff, a lot of stuff that triggers it like when you attack or at the beginning of combat. So being able to double or even triple down on some of that value just multiplies what you're doing in a really powerful way.
Yeah, and another card I thought that was really good in the deck is Barret, Avalanche Leader. So all of the main characters are here now. This is a 4/4 with reach for 2 red and green, and it says Avalanche. Whenever an equipment you control enters, you create a 2/2 red rebel creature token, and at the beginning of combat in your turn, you attach up to one target equipment you control to target rebel you control, and Barrett himself is also a rebel. So just like the ability to again go wider. Cloud wants more creatures with stuff attached to them. Tifa wants to be able to go wide as well with equipment and just like get more damage in. So I think like Barrett is a great way to just sort of ice out the game eventually. Just again, getting a bigger board state, getting more stuff down, and actually being able to close out the game.
Yeah, it's spreading out your threats, making sure that you're not like you have some defense with these tokens.
Yeah.
Making sure that you have multiple things to attack with to help trigger Cloud and keep your hand full. So when you're committing stuff to the board, you're not just dumping your hand and praying that you don't get board wiped.
Yeah, and putting it all into one creature is not great either. So just Barrett being able to just generate additional value
Very
like
helpful.
that is very helpful, yeah.
All right, those are the best cards that already come in the deck. We're going to add 10 spicy new picks to upgrade this deck and make sure it's as powerful as possible. But we're going to get to those after a few words from our sponsors.
You know, with all these MagicCons now, we've been doing a lot of traveling.
That's true, but hey, at least the flight to Vegas is quick.
Flight? I'm making a drive.
That's like over 4 hours, Jimmy.
Yeah, but that's over 4 hours of listening to audiobooks. I've been working my way through the Wheel of Time series on Audible. So instead of endless Nevada desert, I'll be on an epic fantasy adventure.
Wait, you're listening to The Wheel of Time? That's like my favorite series ever. I've been listening to Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, which is actually one of the titles included for free with the Audible membership.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and even with how busy my schedule is, Audible's app makes it easy to just throw it on when I'm taking a walk or driving to work.
Plus, as a member, you can choose one title a month to keep from the whole catalog. And they've got over 1 million things in there.
Oh, that explains why you're planning a drive that's like months from now.
Yeah, actually, that's more of a Wheel of Time thing, because I'm only on book 2.
Oh, so I guess you're just driving to all the MagicCons until like 2032 then.
Yeah. How many hours does it take to get to Atlanta?
Probably about a third of a Wheel of Time book.
Oh, nice.
Start listening and discover what's beyond the edge of your seat. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days and dive into a world of new thrills.
Visit audible.com/command or text command to 500-500. That's audible.com/command or text command to 500-500.
Welcome, cast fans. Tygam Master Opportunist here from the hit meditation podcast, Just Sky's the Limit. I know I appear calm and collected now, but when I first started casting, running a business felt overwhelming. Thank goodness I found Shopify, who helped me manage a flurry of questions and challenges so I could focus on getting out 2 casts a turn. I mean week. With Shopify, there's no reason to suspend your dreams of starting a business. They have true mastery when it comes to managing inventory, shipping, returns, and more. Plus, they can aid you with tools such as ready-to-use templates for your online store. It's like you have a whole monastery of marketing monks on your side, ready to easily create social media campaigns with unmatched commercial prowess. Shopify is the platform behind 10% of e-commerce in the US, including my hated rivals, the Command Zone. Girl, they just make good stuff. So take it from a master opportunist. With Shopify, your opportunity is now.
Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/TCZ. Go to shopify.com/TCZ. Again, shopify.com/TCZ.
Hey, everyone.
How's it?
Here, have a booster pack.
Whoa, what are you doing?
Sorry, after that last Whatnot stream, I just want to keep giving away cool stuff.
Well, you should save it for the next stream, which is May 15th at 12 noon Pacific. And you should all bookmark it right now by going to whatnot.com/invite/command.
As always, we're going to have a bunch of great giveaways. I mean, last time we had packs, Precon, signed cards, even a collector booster box of Tarkir Dragonstorm.
And if you want some guaranteed free value, just sign up with our link. Because when you do, you get $15 free to spend anywhere on Whatnot.
Yeah, you can even use it on some of our sweet Game Nights merch, like a signed Commander deck box.
But of course, you also get the value of hanging out with us live, which I like to think is worth something, right?
I hope so. We're going to be chilling with the fans, talking with chat, and answering your burning questions.
Plus, you can hang out with more than just us, because we're pairing up with the Professor! He'll be starting his stream at 1 p.m., so you can enter our giveaways and then stick around and maybe win something from Prof also.
Yeah, and he's always giving away a ton of really cool stuff. Do you think it'd be weird if I entered one of those giveaways?
It would be weird if you won one, yeah.
Yeah, good point. And remember, if you sign up for Whatnot using our link at whatnot.com/invite/command, you get $15 free to use anywhere on the platform.
So come join us on May 15th at 12 noon Pacific to get in on all the fun, and don't forget to use our link to get those 15 free bucks.
Now, will somebody please take these packs?
Yeah, take them off our hands.
1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, clue fish.
Dr. Seuss?
No, I'm working on Morph on Fish Typal. Just want to make sure I have enough fish to actually draw some.
Oh, well, you should use ARCHIDEKT's hypergeometric calculator. See? ARCHIDEKT makes it easy to check your chances of drawing what you need, whether it's a certain creature type, mana value, or category of cards, like ramp or draw spells. I use it to check my land count. See, in this deck, you only have a 61% chance of drawing 3 lands by turn 2. Might be a little low.
Okay, I'll cut a basic or 2.
Wait, you mean add?
Nope, I've got a reputation to uphold. ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/commandzone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/commandzone.
Welcome back, everybody. We are talking about the new Final Fantasy Limit Break Precon, and we are upgrading it. It is time. We're going to add 10 new cards. We're going to take 10 cards out. We're going to use a budget of $50. We know you spent a lot on this Precon, so we want to make sure you're not breaking the bank when you're upgrading it. And we want to make sure it's just running as smoothly as possible.
Yeah,
so let's get into it.
Let's do it. Okay, so $50 total for the budget. I went a little bit under. I think I got around like $30 or something.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about some of the cards. Just heads up, forewarning, this is going to be a very Fallout themed upgrade guide because the Fallout decks added so many good cards for equipment decks. And there's also a little bit of Lord of the Rings in here too.
Yeah. Especially in these colors. I mean, adding green to your equipment deck isn't super common.
Yeah, the dog meat deck is literally, it's like, hey, side by side, these feel very good together. Okay, so the first card I did want to add, though, is from the Lord of the Rings set, actually. It's Forge Anew. 2 and a white for an enchantment. It's when it enters the battlefield, return target equipment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. As long as it's your turn, you may activate equip abilities anytime. You could cast an instant. Very nice. And then you may pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate during each of your turns. So a lot of times, I think the first part of this, which is you can return equipment from your graveyard to the battlefield, actually won't happen. You usually find that the creatures with the equipment get removed before the equipment themselves, unless it's a very problematic equipment like a Sword of. But I do love the ability to swap an equipment in combat if you need to. And that on top of the fact that you just get 1 free equip each turn is very similar to why Cloud's ability is so great. We have a Colossus Hammer in the deck. So I think just like this is just one of those pieces where you can play it either very late when stuff's been blown up and you get something back, or you play it early and just have the ability to swap stuff around. And it makes combat very hard to block for your opponents. Because you swing with everything, they go, okay, I could block. You've already gotten the trigger off Cloud. If I want to kill this thing that's coming at me, or not, because you can just swing your Colossus Hammer over to it at instant speed, I just declare no blocks. So I think that threat of activation is very important. And in general, this just has a lot of flexibility in a deck like this.
Yeah, this card's great. And it's only $2.75.
Yeah.
Again, we were talking about how decks like this have trouble with resilience, where it's like if the table decides that your game is over, your game is often over.
Yeah.
So adding a little bit more recursion, a little bit more graveyard stuff, just to make sure that like a Vandal Blast doesn't blow you out, or that you always get to keep pressuring your opponents without this fear of getting absolutely annihilated.
Yeah, I often also see games like played with this deck to go in 2 phases. And the first phase is like, I'm going to do everything I can to dump my hand, dump my board, get out and swing really hard, and knowing that there's going to be some kind of reset at some point. And then I'm going to want to have that second push to be able to do it again.
Right.
And in those later turns, you really don't want to be wasting mana on just equipping all the time as you rebuild and going slow. Yeah, so Forge Anew is a thing it's like kind of redundancy for Pure Steel Paladin, and it also has that graveyard synergy. And we're going to add some cards as well that really help out with filling your graveyard up.
Up next is where the Fallout theme begins.
Fall in with inventory management. Yay. So this is...
sweet.
And it's also not in the deck because it's a Fallout card.
Yeah, of course.
So a lot of cards I'm adding like would have been great in the Precon environment, but you can tell like obviously they can't just be swapping in and adding Fallout
inventory
cards.
management. Is that a thing that you do in Final Fantasy?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, inventory management is just an RPG thing,
Sure.
But I could see where some contract somewhere does not allow this card to be in this deck as well. But it's red-white for an instant with split second, and for each aura and equipment you control, you may attach it to a creature you control. So this just like instantly swaps everything over to one card if you wanted to. Really great if you're trying to get a Tifa trigger on something that isn't blocked. A lot of times equipment decks suck because they're just like, all right, jump block. So being able to throw everything onto something else last minute or even protect something if someone tried to kill
Move your
with a
lightning
damage-based
greaves
thing.
or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like one of those cards where you're always happy to have it in your hand and ends up being one of the like gotcha trump cards at the end of the game because it has split second as well.
Yeah, very fun. Especially with Tifa, that's a nightmare where they're like, okay, I have to block this one so that like they don't get an extra combat, and you're like, aha,
Inventory
extra combat, kabam!
Kabam!
Pretty sweet. This one's only $1.50, and I think is one of those cards that's just so fun to have.
Yeah, and it just feels like you have to have it in every equipment deck that's out now.
Yeah.
Protection is the next category. I only added one card here because there already are a lot of cards that do protection in the deck. I was actually really surprised that this wasn't in the deck to begin with.
It says Boros in it.
Oh, yeah, good point. They could have renamed it.
It's Boros Charm.
It's Boros Charm. Red, white, for an instant, you get to choose one. You can deal 4 damage to a target player or planeswalker, or permanents you control gain indestructible in the turn, or target creature gains double strike until end of turn.
There's so much to love here.
Yeah.
The double strike is huge in equipment decks like
So
this.
big!
Like most of the time, Boros Charm is just a straight up protection spell in your hand, but here it's a lot more modal because that double strike is so live.
Yeah. And like, look at the 3 cards we've added so far. All of them, if they go together, you will find a way to win the game or kill someone at least on the spot with a combination of these. Instant equip, 0 cost equip, double strike, or stopping someone from trying to kill all your stuff. It's quite nice.
Yeah, Boros Charm is just the kind of card that you want in decks like this. It protects your board from those terrifying Vandal Blasts and kills people.
Yeah. Okay, the next section of cards is...
Boros Charm is expensive
that's
right
right.
now. It is $6, which is
What happened?
wild. I don't understand.
It's a good card.
It's very good. But yeah, $6 for Boros Charm right now.
As far as like combat tricks go, this is one of the classic, like more than a combat trick type cards. So it makes sense. And giving everything indestructible is always super hot. Okay, let's talk about card selection. I couldn't do a guide like this that wants to go wide with equipment and creatures without adding in Nahiri, Forged in Fury.
Your gal.
It just feels very fitting for the deck because it's doing everything that Cloud wants to do as well. It's 4 red and white for a 5/4 with affinity for equipment, so it costs 1 less to cast for each equipment you control. Great. And then whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn, and you may cast equipment spells this way without paying their mana costs. Hooray! So it's card advantage. Cloud already wants you to be going wide with a bunch of creatures with equipment, like Barrett does as well. And so Nahiri just seems like another solid addition to the deck to just do what you're wanting to do and add more cards in.
Not to mention she's
cards.
a base 5/4, which is great for the 7 power theme thing for Tifa and for other cards in the deck. It's much easier to get from 5 to 7 than it is to get from 4 to 7.
Yeah.
So she's doing a lot of work. We're talking a lot about resilience of the deck and making sure that it sees the late game. And one way you can do that is just make sure that you're seeing a lot of cards.
Yeah.
A big thing to notice when you're playing decks that are casting stuff from exile, and that's their primary form of card advantage, is if you have a card in exile, you want to do everything in your power to cast it. Just because if you don't have the card advantage, you just have selection. So if it's good for you in that moment, you really want to get it cast, especially if it's an equipment, obviously, because it's free.
Yeah. And there are turns, too, where you play Nahiri for like 3 mana, you go to combat, you swing with 3 equipped creatures, you have extra mana to be able to cast the stuff you get off the top of your library, and then that makes you feel like, great, I have the advantage and I can now really add to it and solidify that.
Nahiri's sitting at $6 right now,
She's
and
cool.
worth every penny. Very good.
Yeah. Next up is more Fallout. It's dog meat. Everloyal.
Cloud deserves a dog.
Yeah, there's got to be some dog in Final Fantasy VII that could be thematic, right? For someone that's like super into making this deck still stay thematic, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you are blowing this wide.
Yeah, I'm just kind of cracking that whole door. Yeah. Dogmeat is insane in this deck, though. Yeah. It's red, green, and white for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, mill 5, and then return an aura or equipment from your graveyard to your hand. So any of them. It doesn't have to be the cards that you milled. And it says, whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, create a junk token. So those are artifacts that you can tap and sack to exile the top card of your library, and you can play that card this turn, and you can only do it as a sorcery. So again, we want to have a lot of equipped creatures. We want them to go wide with Cloud's ability so you can draw more cards, and you're also going to get junk tokens out of it, and you get the recursion from Dogmeat, and it's a 3-mana card, and it's a creature that can attack. It's everything. Dogmeat's great.
You get the joy of loading a dog up with a giant hammer and a sword and watch him go.
Yeah.
I think Dogmeat's great in this deck. It gives you a lot of what we're looking for here, which is card advantage and also that recursion and a little bit of self-mill for some of the stuff we're talking about, like your Forge and Forge and New.
Forge and New. We're going to add another card later that adds that as well.
I was going to say, like you're Forged in Fury.
Forged in Fury.
Like you're Forged in Fury, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Megaton's Fate, another Fallout card. Sorry. Not sorry. 5 in a red, sorcery, choose one. You can either destroy an artifact and create 4 treasure tokens, which is great. So for 6 mana, you get 4 mana back. Or you can detonate and have it deal 8 damage to each creature, and each player gets 4 rad counters to make this more confusing for new players. Rad counters are great, again, with the graveyard synergies that we're adding. The self-mill is nice. The damage it does is not inconsequential. But I like the fact that this is modal and has other things you can do with it.
This is an interesting one. I've never seen this one played, but it's like, it's a great board wipe to pull out that fuels you for the late game and sets you up for some of this recursion that we're talking about.
And I'm taking out a board wipe in my cards to remove, so I figured I'd rather add one in that has some modality to it, and you can get some mana back with the treasure, and Cloud's already trying to make treasure too, so it felt nice.
Cool. Megaton's Fate.
Hooray. Next up, Kellen, the Fey-Blooded.
Oh, that one's 50 cents.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Dogmeat, only $1. I always forget the prices.
Yeah. This next one, though, is another one of those like instant includes in equipment decks.
He's great.
Kellen's nuts, actually.
I have him in my non-equipment deck.
Really?
Yeah. Because it's a Cast from Exile deck. I was like, okay.
Oh, right.
Tutor for Skull Clamp, then cast him from Exile, make a Thopter.
Pretty
Seems
good.
really good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
2 in red, 2/2, Human Fairy. He has a sorcery adventure side, so you can cast this first. For 1 in the white, to search your library for an aura and equipment, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And then his regular creature side is a 2/2 double strike, and other creatures you control get +1/+0 for each aura and equipment attached to Kellen Fey-Blooded. So, a great way to get to that 7 power. I think just having an equipment tutor in a deck like this is really important as well. You can load up on a lot of these cards in these types of decks with like Open the Armory and all that. But since we only have 10 in, 10 out, I figured I'd put in the one that just does everything.
Does the most. I mean, this is an Anthem effect attached to a tutor, especially with equipment. It tends to be kind of toolboxy. Like you've got Sword of the Animus, that's your ramp spell, and you've got Champion's Helm, which is like a protection spell. So there's a lot of different equipment that are best in different points in the game. And that's where the equipment tutors become really powerful. Where you're like early game, snapping off a Sword of the Animist. But late game, I don't know, maybe I want a Colossus Hammer.
And typically I'm not a huge tutor player, but in my equipment deck is by far the most tutory deck I have because you're just already at a disadvantage with equipment decks. Because the equipment, again, by themselves do nothing. So I think having the ability to find something in a deck like this is one of the few angles that you have to really make sure that you can try and actually win a game.
Not to mention, Kellen has double strike, so he's great at wearing equipment, especially ones with damage triggers on them.
Tifa.
If you can get him up to 7 power with Tifa, that's in other ways.
Yeah.
It's very good with Tifa.
Tutor Colossus Hammer.
There you
Throw
go.
it on him.
I mean, it's pretty sweet, especially with the free equips that are in the deck and the ones that we already added.
Yeah.
Can you imagine not blocking Kellen and then somebody moving a Colossus Hammer to it at instant speed and you're like, am I dead? And you're like, I think so.
Yeah. And you're like, wait, is this Final Fantasy or is this Magic? It's both.
Both. Kellen's sitting at $5 right now.
Yeah. Great card. Even if you don't add it to this deck, I think Kellen's just one of those cards that you just love to have in your back pocket.
It's a good one.
Yeah. And the last card selection / equipment type card I'm adding is Pip-Boy 3000, which is one of the best cards in the game. I swear to God.
This card's great.
1 mana equipment. Whenever equipped creature attacks, choose one. Equip cost is 2, by the way. You can either draw a card then discard a card. Great. You can put a 1/1 counter on that creature. Great for the 7 power matter stuff. Or you can untap up to 2 target lands. Great.
Yeah.
Everything about this card is just great.
These do all the things that you're looking for. It digs you into another threat, another creature, maybe another piece of equipment. It buffs your commander so you can get the treasures, and it ramps you. If like in the early game, there's I mean, the Pip-Boy kind of does everything in Fallout, and it also does everything on the equipment.
Yeah, and boy, oh boy, are you going to feel thematic when you throw a Pip-Boy on Cloud. Sorry.
Somewhere the universe is beyond haters are screaming.
Oh, yeah.
And I get it. I'm sorry.
I get it. I'm so sorry, too.
It's really good in the deck, though.
It would be lovely to have a Universes Within version of Pip-Boy 3000, but until then, Pip-Boy 3000 is it.
Pip-Boy it
It's
is. Only $3 for a Pip-Boy right now, which I think is kind of a crime. I think this card is can go in a ton of decks, especially with the untapping 2 lands part.
Yeah, and again, because of the equip cost in the deck, adding just that extra tax on your mana, just having that, I often find that the untapping of the 2 lands is the thing I do the most.
Yeah.
Because I have other card advantage things going on. Okay, equipment that I added to the deck. Sorry, we're back in Fallout. It's pre-war formal wear.
Oh, this card's busted.
Yeah, you play this in CDH.
Yeah, I mean...
Or not CDH, in Canlander.
I play it in Canlander,
yeah. Not CDH, sorry.
Pre-war formal wear is 2 and a white for an artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield attach pre-war formal wear to it. It gives the equip creature +2/+2 and vigilance. It has equip 3. In equipment decks, I think some of the most important cards in the entire deck are 3 mana or less, right? We're talking about your Pure Steel Paladins. Yeah. We're talking about some of the
Kellen.
Sure, Kellen. Just a lot of your little early setup pieces that give you more cards or that help you move stuff around are 3 mana. So if you are recovering from a board wipe, pre-war formal wear just does everything you need it to do.
Yeah, I like this card a ton, and we just added in, by the way, the Pip-Boy with the Forge Anew, with the Dog Meat. So there are other ways to get stuff into your graveyard as well.
Base Breaker is a good thing to bring back with the pre-war formal wear.
Yeah, I do love this card.
Yeah, I mean, this card's just so much better than it looks. And then the Vigilance also goes a long way in a deck that is so throw all my stuff on my guy, attack with him.
Yeah,
and you're okay, I do have a blocker though. So you don't get cracked back into oblivion.
Yeah. And there is a world where pre-war formal wear fits very well thematically into Final Fantasy VII. I don't know why I keep saying these things like it matters. We already have Pip-Boy here.
$2.50 for a pre-war formal wear, or you could just buy the Fallout Precon.
Yeah, just buy a Fallout Precon. Okay. Last equipment that we're adding is the Hexplate Wall Breaker.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's great. 3 red for Mirrodin equipment. So when it enters, you create a 2/2 red rebel creature token, which you might already have thanks to the deck, and you attach this card to it, and then it gives equip creature +2/+2, and then whenever the equip creature attacks, if it's the first combat phase, you untap each attacking creature, and then there's an additional combat phase. The equip cost is 3 and a red.
Oh yeah.
So again, this is kind of like Tifa-ish. But again, you just need the ability to win in equipment decks, and oftentimes the extra combat is where you're going to get it from. Mm-hmm. This creates a creature when it comes down, so it also kind of does the Barrett thing. It's good with Cloud to give more equipped creatures just on the way, going, doing the thing. I love this card.
Yeah, this one's good. I mean, 5 mana feels like a lot until you're taking an extra combat, and you're like, oh.
Fine with me.
And I have a 4/4.
And it's an artifact equipment. It matters for other cards in my deck. Yeah.
It's great to bring back with stuff like what's his name? Dogmeat?
Dogmeat.
Yeah, $5.50 for a Hexblade Wall Breaker.
Hexblade Blah Blagger.
It gives you a lot, a good alternate top end to your commander. So spreading out your threats goes a long way. Yeah. That brings the total of this upgrade to $33.75.
Hey, we kept it under 50.
Plenty. You know what? I appreciate you saving them a little bit of money because this Precon is so expensive.
I found with all my Precon upgrades, I've never gotten close to the 50.
The 50 is a lot.
Yeah.
50, you have to really spend a lot to get to 50.
And there's a lot of different ways I could have done it, but it's one card that costs $25 or whatever. I'm like, no thanks.
No, this is good. All right, we've added 10 cards, so we have to do the hardest thing.
And cut 10.
We have to say goodbye to 10 Magic cards.
Yeah, so this, I wanted to add a caveat because they're... Caveat.
Don't
at me. There are a lot of players that will obviously love this deck for the cards that are Final Fantasy VII themed. And there are some players that don't care at all. So I think like that when it comes to the cuts of this deck, I kept in a lot of the cards that maybe were a little bit weaker, but it just felt so Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Like Kate Sith, I'm not cutting that guy from this deck, even though I think he's not that great.
But he's super cute.
He's so cute and he's a great character. So the cards I did cut were, there's just a little asterisk there,
Yeah.
New Avengers. Okay.
Okay.
The first card I cut is Ultimate Magic Meteor. This is 5 and red for a sorcery. It deals 7 damage to each creature if this was cast from exile. For each opponent choosing an artifact or land that player controls, destroy the chosen permanents. So you can foretell this card by paying 2 mana and then casting it for the foretell cost of 5 and a red.
Still 6.
Still 6, 8 mana.
Yeah.
So I think Megaton's Fate is the replacement. I just had 1-for-1 in terms of a board wipe for this one. I just don't love this card. It costs so much to foretell and cast it again, and just the difference between 7 and 8 damage is not that significant. So I think as far as board wipes go, this is just a weaker version of it. And yeah, blowing up a bunch of artifacts is cool, but it's also not, I think, going to be the thing that makes this board wipe worth it after you cast it for 8 total mana.
Okay. Ultimate Magic, gone.
Not so ultimate. The next card is Decimate. Why are they putting this card still in precons?
I still like Decimate. I play Decimate.
Girl, there are so many times where I've had Decimate and it just cannot be cast because you have to have legal targets
for all
everything.
Of them.
Yeah, so it's artifact, creature, enchantment, and land.
But when you do have the targets, Jimmy,
it's sweet.
You do, it's incredible.
I still think about when Kibler cast that Decimate on game nights.
It went really badly. Yeah,
we just went no. Yeah, I think this deck already has 8 sources of mass disruption.
Yeah.
So I think the weakest of them is Decimate and Ultimate Magic Meteor. So I was happy to cut it.
I think that's fair.
Next up is Hellkite Tyrant. It's flashy, it's expensive, and it will get removed.
Yeah, we've already read this one. It doesn't. This is the one that steals all of the artifacts, and when if you have 20 or more artifacts, you can win the game. So it's a 6/5. It's flying and it's trample, but it's not super thematic, and it's not super good.
Yeah. Although I will say, in some tables, this Hellkite Tyrant lands, everyone goes, whoops, I wasn't prepared to remove a creature in Magic the Gathering, and then it steals a bunch of stuff, and everyone hates you. So
yeah,
I could see a reason to include it as well, but in general, I don't love this type of effect.
I mean, flample is the right keywords, but I agree, it's sort of... It flags a very high threat for you to spend 6 mana on.
You're already a threat the moment Cloud comes down and starts doing its thing, even if you aren't actually properly assessed as the real threat. That's the problem with equipment decks too, is people go, oh, we have to kill that person. They're doing too much. And it's like, actually, I'm not. You just get rid of a couple of things I'm done for.
Yeah.
So I think Hellkite Tyrant adds an extra target that isn't worth the cost of the card that it's on.
I think that's fair.
Next up is Avalanche of Sector 7. This is 2 in a red for a star 3 human rebel menace. Its power is equal to the number of artifacts your opponents control. And whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact they control, Avalanche of Sector 7 deals 1 damage to that player. I think it's a fun thematic card, but as far as creatures go, I just don't think it's that good.
I agree. This card's weird in the deck. You don't have anything that supports either of those. What you do have is a lot of artifact removal.
Also, imagine this with Hellkite Tyrant.
Like it just has
and then
zero
you steal
power.
their artifacts, and you're like, wait a minute, this got
it's sort
weaker.
It's sort of a weird nombo. Like I guess you're cutting 2 of the big artifact removal spells, but
yeah. I just don't. I can see this card landing and just being bad.
Yeah.
It just being a 3/3 with menace, and then everyone's like, cool, now it's just pinging me indiscriminately. I hate you. So we're gonna cut that one.
Annoying cards like that are often worse than they look because you're like, it did like 4 damage, but also it ate a removal spell.
Yeah.
Because it kept going like, don't do it,
hey,
Jimmy.
And you have to remember it.
Jimmy.
Ow.
Jimmy.
Why? I'm just trying to play the game over here. That's why you play dog meat instead of Avalanche of Sector 7. Sorry, thematic lovers. Next up is Furious Rise. This is 2 in red for an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until you exile another card with this enchantment. This is card advantage, and it is decent in the deck, but it is conditional, and I don't love that it triggers at your end step. I think by including cards like Pip-Boy and Dogmeat and Pre-World Formalware, we're adding better things in terms of card advantage. That Furious Rise, by the time it does... Like, let's say it's turn 5 and you play this finally. You have to wait until turn, 7 or 8 until it gets you 3 cards of an extra card. So I think it's a little too slow. It's a little too awkward.
Yeah.
Don't love it.
We've added a lot of card advantage. I think it's fair to take one out.
All right, Summon Kujata is next. Is 5 and a red for one of the new summon sagas. So it's got 3 stages. It's a 7/5 trample haste creature for 5 and a red. And then its first phase, it deals 3 damage of each to up to 2 target creatures. So it's kind of removal. And then its second phase, second lore, what do you call it? Second chapter? Second chapter.
Yeah.
Is ice, and up to 3 target creatures can't block this turn. And then its third chapter is fire, discard a card, then draw 2 cards. When you discard a card this way, this creature deals damage equal to that card's mana value to each opponent, and then you sacrifice this thing. So I don't love the summons. It's very high mana cost, it's very telegraphed, and it's very slow.
Yeah, all of those chapters are super scary. What is this? It's a 7/5 for 6. Sure. Oh, it's an ox. Okay.
That makes all the difference.
Done. I'm keeping it. Yeah, so it comes in, it can like kill a couple of things, but it is, I don't know, it's a 7 power creature, so it's not the end of the world if you keep this in your deck.
Yeah, I think it's to me, this was like kind of on the edge. Mm-hmm. For me, I just think something that's so telegraphed and gets rid of itself is not really where you want to be.
Yeah, it's a bummer to spend 6 mana on something that you know is going away.
Yeah, even if it is like, hey, this thing threatens to kill you, but it's also like, hey, this thing threatens to kill you. Everyone can see it. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows, oh, if I don't leave enough creatures up to block, or, so I just think it's like, in general, the more you're already telegraphing your plays so hard with an equipment deck, I don't like cards that extra do it.
It is also off the equipment plan. There's no particular synergy here for a card that is 6 mana.
Yeah, and you don't want to equip it either, because then it's going to die. All right, next up we have Secret Rendezvous.
Ow.
Ow, ow. Great card, great art, great theme, but 1 white for you and target opponent each draw 3 cards. We added some card advantage in. This is generally just not, I just don't like this card. This is just me not liking a card.
I think in a deck where you're the threat and it's going to be very difficult to be like, hey, use those cards against somebody else.
Yeah.
I think giving somebody 3 cards is pretty dangerous because it just gives them the answer to you.
Yeah.
You're pretty easy to solve when you can remove a creature or an equipment, or you can kind of bounce is disastrous in decks like this. So I think giving anybody more resources that can be turned against you is, unless you're playing politics like a master, not great.
Not so hot. All right, the last 3 cards are all equipment, and we added 3 equipment in, although I would say in an ideal world, you're actually cutting another one of your favorite Final Fantasy VII themed cards so that you just keep more equipment in the deck. But these were the ones I found to be the clunkiest / not the best. The first is Trailblazer's Boots. 2 mana, equip 2, equipped creature has non-basic land walk. This is good. Don't get me wrong. I would much rather have like a Brotherhood Regalia or something in this spot, but I was finding it tough to find other cuts that weren't thematic, so I got rid of them. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you want your equipments to be buffs for the most part.
Yeah.
So it feels a little weird to have an equipment that doesn't actually add power.
Yeah. Explorer Scope is up next. Whenever equipped creature attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it on the battlefield tapped. No thanks. I just don't love it.
Yeah, especially if you're equipping it to Cloud on turn 5. You're not really worried about the lands.
Sick. And then Dark Steel Plate was the last one. I know this is a really fun, loved card by a lot of people, but I think it just costs too much to just give Indestructible. And it doesn't give a stat boost. And it's a bit costly.
Yeah, I think...
I could be wrong, by the way. Just letting you all know.
Indestructible is good, but like you're not worried about it being destructed.
Yeah.
You're worried about Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, bounce spells. Like I think Indestructible only goes so far these days. Hexproof or Shroud is going to feel a lot better.
Yeah, and there's, again, you can look through the deck. I tried to keep as many of the characters in here as possible, so I only cut 1 sort of character. But, if that's where you want to go, there's other things you can get rid of. It's a tough deck, I think, to do 10 in, 10 out of. I'd much rather have it be a much more extensive upgrade, and you're just really keeping Cloud as the only card. But... we're in that world now where Universes Beyond, there's a group of people that love to have the cards be all Universes Beyond. There's people that don't want it at all. So I tried to strike a balance.
Yeah, I think if you bought this deck, you're a Final Fantasy fan. It makes sense to try and keep the cards that are that make the deck the Final Fantasy VII deck.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there will be a lot of cards in the main set that can get added to this deck as well to make sure that the flavor is as high as possible. So do a little bit of shopping around. It's possible you could add even more Final Fantasy cards to this list.
Yeah.
All right, so we've added 10 cards. We've taken 10 cards out. It's time to talk about how this deck plays post upgrades and any strategy tips for people piloting this deck as you've played it before.
I think you actually don't necessarily want to get Cloud out on 5 and attacking immediately if you're not set up for it. And set up for it is like, I don't just want Cloud to draw me a card. I'd rather have it so that I get at least 2 cards drawn and just have a bigger and wider board state. Because if Cloud comes out and dies, and you have nothing else going on, you're going to feel pretty bad. So I think you want to ramp, get your creatures and equipment out early, set it up, don't look too threatening, make sure that you're still able to block and stop damage from coming in because you're going to be going on the aggressive when you do go. So just, I think, like, set up, and then once you land Cloud, then it's like the engine's turned on, I'm ready to rock. I hopefully can close out the game really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, doing like Barrett stuff earlier to get tokens on the ground, just to make sure that you look like a regular deck and you're not going to knock somebody out.
Yeah.
In 1 or 2 turns there.
Yeah.
This deck has a lot of punching power. It has a lot of like highly disruptive equipments. There's like one that like whenever you attack, you tap stuff down where it's just going to
the shuriken.
It's just going to be a ton of pressure really fast if you can set up in the right way, where you're like, I thought I was ready for this Cloud onslaught, and I am not. So keep an eye out for new cards from Final Fantasy that you can add in here, but it does have a lot of very solid punching power. But you are trying to take out one player. It's like within 2 turns of getting your commander in.
Yeah, and if Tifa's out, hopefully it's just game over at that point. Yeah. Tifa, yeah. Good deck, low clunky deck, but it's a fun one. And I'm excited to see just Cloud decks without the baggage of all of his Final Fantasy VII friends.
The baggage of his friends?
Sorry.
The baggage of his friends?
Sigma Cloud, he needs to be alone.
To the listeners, what do you think about this Precon? Any cards we missed to add that you think have to go in the deck? Any cards we suggested to take out or add that you disagree with? Get in the comments, let us know. We hope you're having fun with all of these spoilers coming out. Final Fantasy is a really exciting time for a lot of players.
Yeah.
So, hope you're having fun. If you want to pick up...
Hope you're not sick of me. I'm kind of plastered all over this too. There's a lot of me out there right now.
If you want to pre-order these decks, or any of the cards that we talked about in this episode, go over to cardkingdom.com/command. Card Kingdom has a huge selection of singles and sealed product. So when you're shopping for a new deck that you're excited about, you can order as many cards in one place, and they can be shipped to you safely and soundly in one package in a reasonable time frame. I hate when a package shows up on my doorstep and I'm unsure whether my cards have survived their journey, and I'm always sure with Card Kingdom. So support them and support the show by going to cardkingdom.com/command.
And protect your cards with maybe some of the Final Fantasy themed stuff. There's going to be a lot of it, and I'm expecting it to be very popular. So you want to get your hands on it first by going to ultrapro.com/command. Sign up for their newsletter. Just make sure you have that site bookmarked with that referral link. That way, when the stuff comes out, you can make sure to get it. I'm pretty sure some of this stuff is going to sell out. There's going to be a ton of stuff for all the precons. We have the Cloud sleeves on these cards here you see on the screen. And while you're there, you can also just check out all the other cool stuff that they have. The Mana 8 line, they just came out with the cool deck storage things.
Yeah, they've got like a bigger unit that holds multiple decks too, which is cool.
Yeah, I love having all that stuff. If you go to my office in the Command Zone office here, it's just top to bottom covered with Ultra Pro product, because that's how much I personally use and trust the product to keep my stuff safe and sound. So ultrapro.com/command.
All right, we've talked a lot about Magic the Gathering and also Final Fantasy VII, but we're going to take a moment to talk about something outside the world of Magic.
Yeah. I got stuff. Do you got stuff?
Have you been watching Andor?
I have been watching Andor. I wanted to talk about Andor.
It's so good.
Yeah, so we are now, at the time of this recording, we're in the 3rd of the 4 batching of episodes that came out. Are you all the way caught up?
Yep, yes.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen Andor, and if you're not a fan of Star Wars, this might be the only thing in Star Wars that actually entertains you if you don't love Star Wars. If you do love Star Wars, I consider this the single greatest piece of Star Wars media to be released since the original trilogy.
I mean, it's incredible. The second season, like the first season is really great, and it introduces a lot of great characters and like wonderful conflict. The second season is like,
it's almost a masterpiece.
It is an epic. I mean, we were talking about it. It's like multiple movies. Like they drop 3 episodes, and each 3 episodes feels like a different movie. Like it could be its own trilogy. Mm-hmm. The way Diego Luna's great.
Oh, so good. The way that the second season works is that so the first season is kind of contiguous, pretty much, like top to bottom, first 12 episodes. I think there's 12 episodes. The second season, they're releasing it in 4 batches, and each 3 episodes takes place a year apart from each other.
Right. As
we move up to the events of Rogue One. And like Rachel said, each 3 of them, they feel like these standalone, like a book series or it's incredible. It's like, it's got a full setup of a world, of the scenes, of the characters and their intentions and what they're doing. It doesn't do the thing where it like each character in every scene spells everything out super clearly, because if you're just watching closely, it all is there.
Yeah.
The production design is insanely good.
Yeah.
I don't know where they got the money from and how long they spent building the sets and the costumes and every single part of it. But at no point do you feel like what a lot of the other Star Wars projects have, which is like, we call it volume. The volume, which is like the cool big digital screen that has they do it for Mandalorian, a bunch of stuff. But it feels stale over a certain point because it's just a digital screen behind people, and it doesn't have the real depth and the sets that feel tangible. Every single scene in Andor does not feel like it's filmed on the volume.
No.
They're outdoors. They're in these gigantic set pieces. It looks and feels beautiful. There's so much depth and thought put into every single part of this show. I'm just marveling at it every time I watch it.
Yeah, no, it's if you haven't watched it, if you haven't like made space for it, if you don't want to be hurt again by Star Wars, Andor's. Look, I've watched a lot of the other TV shows, and I haven't finished most of them. But Andor's a masterpiece. It's really something. So
it's special. You're not going to see something like this in a long time, I think, in terms of like prestige TV. And even if you don't care about Star Wars, it's like beyond that. It's like political drama. It's
like
about
a French Revolution.
Yeah, like literally. Yeah, it's like about what does it mean to be, oppressed by an imperial regime, and then how do you react to it? All these different factors coming in, and the agitators. Oh, it's so good. It's so deep. Oh.
Anyway, so it's you should watch it, and we did our best not to spoil it, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, what is there is one phrase. It's you should recalibrate your excitement or something.
What?
One of the characters, Darrigas, says it to Deidre, where she's like getting excited about something, and just watch the show. The way that the characters talk and everything, it's incredible.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Dedra and Sybil are like
Dedra and
just
Cyril.
Cyril are wild characters. It's really great.
Okay.
Big thank you to our amazing team here at the Command Zone that make this episode and episodes like this possible. Thank you to Rachel Kendra, Karina Cruz, Christopher Batista, Sebastian Salazar, Gaurav Galati, Jamie Block, Jordan Pridgeon, Jake Boss, Eric Lem, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Evan Limburger, Sam Waldo, and of course, Josh.
Lee.
Why?
Quai.
Quai?
Why? Quai.
It's Quai?
It's it's Josh Leak Why.
I've been saying JLW the whole time.
No, I'm JW. All right. That's
your middle name.
Franklin. James Franklin.
JFW.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.